Hi everyone, it's me, Mrs. Lockman from Boston School Forest, and I like sweet treats too. And I'm so thankful that Doug talked to us about how people 100 and 1,000 years ago sweetened their food with honey and fruit and sugar from sugar cane. But you know, people 100 and even 1,000 years ago here in Wisconsin also had a way to sweeten their food, and it came from a plant. And not just any plant, it came from a tree. And not just any tree, it's our Wisconsin state tree. It's the sugar maple. And I'm here with my friend, Mr. Solon, who will tell us a little bit about how you can get sweet from a tree. Hi, Mr. Solon.
Good morning, Mrs. Lockman. It's good to be here in the woods today. Of course, this is fall, and we don't usually make maple syrup in the fall. It's a spring thing. Although you can sometimes get sugar in the fall, but mostly we're in the spring. So we're standing here by our maple tree that we talked about as the source for sugar. And this is a process that Native Americans discovered thousands and thousands of years ago. And so maple sugar has been made in Wisconsin for a super long time. And we're fortunate to be able to kind of continue that tradition, having learned from Native Americans how maple syrup is made, and now doing a very similar process, but maybe a little bit more technology to it. But basically what we're doing is utilizing this amazing thing that trees do called photosynthesis, and capturing sunlight and carbon dioxide and making sugar out of that, and they keep that in their sap. So in the winter they store that. It's all stored right now. In the spring we're able to come and collect that sap that has just a little bit of sugar in it, like 3% sugar, so it tastes like slightly sweet water, and we're able to take that sap out of the tree and cook it down. So show you a little bit about how that's done. This is the size of a tree maybe that we would tap for maple syrup. So this one has a little ways to go. Generally, probably going to grow for another 40 years before it'd be the right size to get to this size. But on a tree like this, if you look really close, and this one already has a hole in it, but we use a drill to drill a hole into the tree. So anywhere in the tree we can drill a hole. And we're basically just trying to get into this part of the tree that's called the sapwood. You can see the bark here and the sapwood. And the sapwood is where the tree stores that sap, and also it flows back and forth through the tree. So we tap into that to get to where the sap is. And then we have to somehow get it from inside the tree to outside the tree. So we use a little piece of metal called a spigot, right? That goes inside the tree. So you put that in there, it's got a hole in the bottom of it. Put the spigot in the tree, and then we just need a way to catch that. And we do that with a bucket that we hang on the tree. And so it's set up just like that. We can put a cover on it, but that then just sits there, right? And we come along as the bucket fills up and collect that sap. Maybe on a good day, this bucket would fill up with sap, so it'd be about 2 gallons of sap. And it takes about 40 gallons of sap, 35 to 40 gallons of sap to make a gallon of maple syrup. So there's a lot of water in there that we basically have to cook down through fire, so rapid fire to boil off the sap to get to maple syrup. And we get to this product that we call maple syrup, very, very sweet liquid, still has a little bit of water in it. But it's about 2/3 sugar, so 66% sugar. And if we were going to cook all that down, you'd have to continue to cook down more to get to just pure sugar, and it would look like brown sugar, basically. So this amount of sap, this 2 gallons of sap, you would need 20 of these to get to a gallon, or you would need about 10 of these to get to this amount of maple syrup, right? So 20 gallons down to this amount of maple syrup. So it takes a lot of sap to make maple syrup.
I really enjoy maple syrup on my pancakes and my waffles, but there's maple flavoring in other things as well, like oatmeal and even seasoning. And people often say to me, Mrs. Lockman, why don't you do maple syruping programs at Boston School Forest? That's because we're mostly pine trees, and the maple trees that we do have here are just too young to tap. So maybe in another 20 years or like 40 years, like Mr. Solon said, we'll be able to make some maple syrup from our trees at Boston School Forest. That's all for this week. Have a great day. Bye.